we never did find her. She called 911 and she called Donnie, and we sent the boys down over the hill, and I stood in front of over by the edge there and watched them.
Okay. What's wrong with that? We've seen this in 3 series now. I've done a series on the Ramseys, I've done a series on the McCanns, and now the Wells. And this plot hole, because I think they're all hoaxers. I think the McCanns are hoaxers. I think the Ramseys are hoaxers. I think the Wells are hoaxers. Hoaxing a crime, right? Presenting evidence of something that didn't actually happen is hard. And even movies can't do it with their unlimited budgets and limited time professional screenwriters. There's still plot holes, even in multi-million-dollar blockbusters. Because fabricating an airtight story is virtually impossible. You've caught someone lying. Now what do? I'm Deception Detective. I'm an attorney trained in statement analysis, and this channel exists to expose lies and manipulation. Before we proceed, please hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell. In today's video, we're going to look at an interview that Summer Wells' grandmother gave about a year after Summer went missing. If you're not familiar with the Summer Wells case, this is my 4th video in the series. She's a 5-year-old girl who went missing in 2021 from a property where she lived with her parents, her brothers, and her grandmother. And we're going to call her Grandis Wells because her daughter is also named Candace Wells, like her. And basically, when people cover this topic, they refer to the grandma as Grandis Wells to distinguish between them. Without further ado, let's listen.
Candace and I got up that morning. She came out and took me into the ER because my leg was messing up on me. And we were afraid something was wrong with my knee. I have a knee replacement. And she was worried that...
So as far as the context goes here, Grandma is telling us about the day that Summer went missing. And if you see my previous videos, the story that Summer's mother says is that she was gardening with her mother. So Grandis, Candace, and Summer were all gardening. And then Summer went inside the house, went downstairs to the basement to play with her toys, and minutes later, when the mother went to go check on what she was doing, she discovered that Summer was gone, that she'd vanished. And ever since that first day, both parents, Summer's father Don and her mother Candace, have pushed the narrative that Summer was kidnapped. Which to me, as you know, is a red flag, because conclusiveness, especially on the day a kid goes missing without any evidence that the kid was abducted, is the sign of a hoax.
The ER because my leg was messing up on me, and we were afraid something was wrong with my knee. I have a knee replacement, and she was worried that there was something wrong with it. And she took me into the hospital, and I ended up getting a shot for it to get rid of the pain. And they prescribed me medication.
So this is interesting. In this case, there are lots of coincidences. For example, Summer went missing right before she was about to start school. Which, to me, I do not think that that is a coincidence. I think that there's a reason Summer was either sold off or dispatched with by her parents before she started school, because I suspect, my opinion is, that they abused her or severely neglected her. And they did not want that to be found out by the school, which could have been a factor why they would have said, hey, this is a good time to sell her off to someone or to execute her. And if you're new to the series, believe me, I understand how far-fetched these theories sound. If you know my channel, I try to explain everything in the most reasonable way possible, but nothing the parents have said so far has allowed me to eliminate any of the most absurd possibilities. So apparently Summer was about to start school. That's what her parents said, which I don't think was a coincidence. I've also seen in the comments some people say that CPS was about to visit the house the day before Summer went missing, which could also explain why they would do a stage a fake kidnapping, right? Do a hoax about her missing so that they do not get in trouble with CPS if CPS were to come and discover abuse. And now we have a third potential little bit of what they want us to think is coincidence. So listen to what Grandma said here. The day Summer went missing, she went to the hospital because her leg was hurting. And not only did she get an injection in her knee, but she was also prescribed medication.
I ended up getting a shot for it to get rid of the pain. And they prescribed me medication.
So they prescribed medication. I wonder what this medication was. I wonder, remember, it's for pain. So it could be an opiate, or it could be a sedative. And why is this important? Because the day Summer went missing, if they filled that prescription that day, Summer's parents, or at least her mother, was in possession of a medication that could have affected her or Summer's state of mind. So, for example, if it were an opiate and Summer's mother was an opiate addict, she could have been extra high that day and neglected Summer even more than usual, and something happened to Summer. Or she could have been extra high that day and carried out some atrocious crime against her daughter when she couldn't do in a normal state of mind. Alternatively, if it were a sedative, it could have been used on Summer, right? They were in possession of a sedative. They could have given it to her, put her to sleep, and dispatched with her in a more humane way. Or they could have put her to sleep when they were selling her off so she wouldn't be making a nuisance as they were delivering her to whoever was buying her. And believe me, just so you're aware, I understand how crazy it sounds. Even I cannot believe I'm saying I think they sold her. But these things do happen. And if you've followed this series, we're 4 videos in, you'll see how I've developed this theory. And I've been unable to shake it as much as I try. So I don't think it's a coincidence that Summer was about to start school, or that CPS was about to visit, or that the same day Summer went missing, they filled a prescription for what might be opiates or sedatives. And the theme of this video is, how do you develop leads or lines of inquiry from a statement? And this is one way you do it. Grandma's talking about the day Summer went missing, and she brought up herself that they went to the hospital and they filled a prescription. So if I were put onto this case and someone paid me to go find Summer, the first thing I would do is ask Grandma what prescription they filled that day. Right? So that's how you develop lines of inquiry from what people say. So, for example, when they say that they think someone kidnapped Summer from the property, well, they have a bunch of dogs from what I've seen. In one of the interviews, you could hear dogs yapping in the background. So one line of inquiry would be, were the dogs barking that day? Why, if the dogs weren't barking, how could someone have snuck onto your property without alerting the dogs? So we have to listen to what people say and then determine, okay, this sounds off. What can I make of it? What will my next steps be? In this case, the next step should be to figure out what prescriptions they filled that day. Because if it was a sedative or an opiate or some sort of strong medication, that could be a clue as to what happened to Summer, whether it points us in the direction of negligence, or the parents getting the extra Dutch courage from some strong opiate to do something that they couldn't bring themselves to do in a sober state of mind, or it could lead us to understand that maybe Summer was sedated to make things easier to carry out. Or it could just be that Grandma got some super strong aspirin, they never filled the prescription, and that line of inquiry is over, and we don't need to worry about the prescription and what it could have possibly been used for.
To take to get the swelling down out of my knee and around my knee because it was inflamed. And then we waited around for my prescription. Summer went swimming that day.
Oh, okay. So Grandma just said they waited around for the. So they did fill the prescription that day. That's interesting. I would like to know what that prescription was. And like I always say on my videos, my channel does not exist to do nitty-gritty deep dives into cases. The purpose of my channel is to teach you how to spot lies and manipulation before misinformation becomes too powerful and the skill is lost forever. The skill of deduction and critical thinking is just lost. That's why I started my YouTube channel. That's why I came back to YouTube, because I see a huge lack of it in the media, and I think people are getting tricked more than I've ever seen. So as far as what we're hearing here is they filled that prescription. I'm pointing it out. I know there's other YouTube channels who go into this nitty-gritty stuff, who file FOIA requests, who have gotten Don and Candace on the phone before, like Ziggy and other people have reached out to me. This video was actually sent to me, I think, by another YouTuber through my contact form at deceptiondeck.com. This was sent to me twice, which is why I prioritized it and made this video right away. So it was sent to me twice by email. Lots of people commented it, and I also had it sent to me on X. So those sorts of channels and YouTubers, right, friends of the channel who do the deep dives, if you are able to figure out what the prescription they filled that day was, I would be very curious to know. So it's interesting that she is bringing all this up on her own, and she's actually telling us they got it prescribed and filled the prescription the day Summer went missing. So they were in possession of prescription drugs the day Summer went missing. Could that be a coincidence? Yes. Could it be important? Yes. Could it even show a sign of premeditation? If they were planning to get rid of Summer and they wanted to get some painkillers to knock her out, to make the process of selling her off easier.
At the horse stables, I believe it was. And then we come back, and I went in my camper, and after we brought my groceries in for me, and the boys helped with that, and of course Summer. And I laid down and went to sleep, and I got up and I was sitting in my doorway, and
here we go, another yappy dog.
We come out, and Candace asked me what I was doing. I said, well, we got to transplant these little cactuses.
It's also interesting that Grandma says she took a nap. Now, if that's a regular thing she does, which it might be, that makes sense. But it could also be a euphemism for being knocked out from whatever medication she was taking. Like a strong painkiller will knock you out. You'll lay down for hours and then wake up and be ready to do stuff again. So that's another line of inquiry from this statement. Is Grandma taking naps a normal thing? Or could it tell us a little bit about the strength of these medications?
Into bigger pots. And we did that, and then Summer come in and had a piece of peppermint, which is her favorite, and then she went in.
All right, so this is interesting. So she's talking about, so this is the story that they tell, that they were gardening. Grandis, Candace, and Summer were gardening. But Grandis says Summer came in. And I thought they were gardening outside. That could just be a benign slip of the tongue, right? She just said the wrong word. She meant to say Summer came out instead of came in. Or if they're gardening like in a greenhouse, it would make sense. But it's also something that we should be alert to. When someone uses the wrong word, we need to mark it, whether it's a benign slip of the tongue or whether it might be indicating to us that this story is made up. Right? She might be envisioning what really happened, where maybe Summer was brought into her camper and fed a tablet. So she says in, when really she's trying to tell us a scripted story about them gardening. So if you're new to my channel, I know I've got lots of new subscribers in the past week, ever since I started covering Summer Wells. They call themselves Summer's Army, and it is no joke. There's a ton of them. So I thank you all for subscribing, liking the videos, showing up to the live streams. And I just want to say these caveats, since there are so many new subscribers, that whenever I point out a sign of deception, it's not a smoking gun like, aha, we got her. She said Summer came in when they said they were outside. So she's a liar. That's not the case. And I'm sure almost all of you understand that, right? 99.9% of people understand that. But there are one or two sometimes who don't get it. So I just like to give this caveat every couple of videos. When we're stacking up our little poker chips to determine whether or not we're going to call someone a liar, we need multiple signs of deception before we go all in and accuse someone of lying. So just listen here, listen to Grandma's slip of the tongue. This could be totally benign, or it could tell us that maybe she's picturing the truth, that Summer came inside and met with her and Candace somewhere, when she's trying to tell us a scripted, made-up story. And this is a phenomenon known as leakage, where the truth slips out despite someone's best efforts to suppress it when they're telling a made-up story.
And Candace asked me what I was doing. I said, well, we got to transplant these little cactuses into bigger pots. And we did that, and then Summer come in and had a piece of peppermint, which is her favorite.
So she said Summer came in. That could be a slip of the tongue, or it could be her messing up, like I said.
And then she went in. She said, Mama, I want to go play with the boys. Candy walked her back to the house, and she asked the boys.
Now, I don't remember how Candace told this story word for word. I would need to do a side-by-side video at some point. But I don't recall. Did Candace say that Summer said she was going to go in and play with the boys, or did she say she was going to go play with her dolls or something, or go watch TV? Because if Grandma's saying Summer said one thing and Candace said Summer saying another thing, it's an inconsistency between their stories. So we need to look more into that.
Boys to keep an eye on her, and that's the last time I seen her.
Tell me when you first realized that Summer was missing, what was going to...
Also, I'm just going to point this out, even though I know plenty of people speak like this, right? That's the last time I seen her is not the same thing as saying the last time I saw her. And this might just be the way she talks. It might just be Tennessee slang. However, when you're talking about a missing child on the news, so a high-stakes situation in a live interview, we can expect that people will choose their words more carefully in order to be accurate. So remember, she's presenting as someone whose granddaughter is missing. So I would expect her to pick the correct words, not to lapse into casual slang like she's telling me about a movie she saw last week. Right, I seen that one. Your granddaughter's missing. You know, at precisely noon on that day, that was the last time I saw my granddaughter. That's how I would expect someone whose kid is actually missing and they're actually worried about what happened to her and they're talking to the news because they want people to help find her. I would expect them to pick their words more carefully. So I'm also just noting that she said seen instead of saw. Because oftentimes what liars will do is they'll use subtly the wrong words. Like for example, I got to work on time yesterday. That's a definitive statement. I got to work on time yesterday. So if you're saying I'm late, you're wrong. However, if I say, well, I should have got to work on time yesterday, or I'm at work on time yesterday, even though those sort of sound like the right thing, they're grammatically more vague and incorrect. And it's actually easier to lie that way by saying broken sentences are grammatically incorrect sentences. It's actually easier for your brain to say that because your brain knows, well, technically I'm not telling a direct lie. And that might be what we're seeing here. If that is what we're seeing here, if in other interviews, in other situations, she says, I saw something, right? I saw the dogs barking. So she knows how to use past tense. And here she says, I seen her. That was the last time I seen her. There might be a reason for that distinction. And it might mean that she's lying to us. That she saw Summer at some other point in time. So when they were gardening, that was not the actual last time she saw Summer. She might have seen Summer's body at some point, or Summer being dropped off in the back of someone's pickup van, in the back of someone's pickup bed. So we still need to make note of it, right? So it's not, like I said, it's not a smoking gun, but saying last time I seen her is something we need to note.
She asked the boys to keep an eye on her, and
Right, she knows how to use past tense, right? She asked the boys to keep an eye on her. Not she asked boys keep eye on her. Why all of a sudden is saw? Why can she not conjugate saw into past tense?
that's the last time I seen her. I go play, and Candace asked me what I was doing. I said, well,
Right, Candace asked me. That's correct. She knows how to conjugate a verb into past tense.
we got to transplant these little cactuses into bigger pots. And we did that, and then Summer come in and had a piece of peppermint, which is her favorite, and
Summer come in and had a piece of peppermint. So this is interesting, actually. Whenever she talks about something Summer did, she doesn't conjugate the verb correctly. Which might mean that everything she's saying about Summer is made up. And this is usually how liars operate. Lying is hard, so most of the time, people will tell 99% of their story will be true. And then they'll just change small things to point you in the wrong direction. So for example, maybe she did move the cactuses around with Candace, but she might just be fabricating the parts about Summer being there. Maybe Summer was already dead or already gone that day. Maybe when she's talking about doing gardening, she's talking about burying Summer's body. And I know these seem like big, huge leaps, but I'm just telling you what's going through my head as possibilities. And we saw this with Amber Heard as well. So whenever in the court case with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, right, I did 2 videos about Amber Heard. Whenever she talked about, whenever she alleged that Johnny beat her up, she would always speak in past tense, right? So she would correctly speak in past tense, right? I got on the jet. I was sitting in my chair. I was looking out the window. And then whenever she talked about something Johnny did, she would switch into present tense. So I was looking out the window. Johnny come over. Johnny slaps me. I got up and went to the bathroom. Right? So, and this is something that liars do because they're fabricating the story in the moment. Right? They're plugging in imaginary details into a memory. So when they're actually describing their memory, they're using past tense correctly. And then whenever they're inserting their little made up, fabricated portion of the story, they lapse into present tense. And people can, like, for example, if they're actually traumatized, describe events in present tense because it's traumatic and they almost can't even picture it actually happening. But when they're switching back and forth between present and past tense like Amber did, it's an indicator that they're lying. That's not how trauma presents. And we're going to listen to what Grandma says here. And let's see, can she actually conjugate the verbs correctly when she talks about Summer? Or does she only mess up the tense when she's talking about Summer? And I'm actually glad we're catching her doing this because this is one of the cards in the deception deck. So thank you to everyone who's pre-ordered the deception deck. If you haven't, it's at deceptiondeck.com. It's on pre-sale right now. It's on discount because of the pre-sale. And it's my 52 favorite lessons for catching liars in flashcards without any of the fluff so you can practice them and learn them and spot things on the fly like I'm doing. And tense is one of them. This is an incorrect tense conjugation. So let's listen again and let's listen to how she describes things that Summer did.
we come out, and the boys helped with that, and
Okay, so the boys helped with that. So see, she knows how to use past tense.
of course Summer, and she was in for me, and the boys helped with that, and And of course, Summer.
Notice how she left off Summer. So the boys helped with that. That's a good definitive statement. It's in past tense. There's a subject, a verb, and then she says, of course, Summer. That's not a full sentence. She didn't say, of course, Summer also helped, or of course, Summer was there. She just said, of course, Summer. So there's actually missing words here when she's talking about Summer being there. I wonder if Summer wasn't actually there. Or if Summer was out of it, like she wasn't able to help because she was drugged up. Or it could just be the way this lady speaks, right? Everything's on the table. I'm just pointing it out because it's cumulative. If we constantly see her unable to talk about Summer appropriately in full sentences, because we know she knows how to use them, in past tense, because we know she knows how to conjugate verbs, it's a red flag. Maybe Summer wasn't there, or maybe the person who was there didn't seem like the actual Summer to her. Like she was drugged up or high or a dead body. Or she wasn't doing the things that Grandma's trying to imply that Summer was doing. She didn't say Summer helped with the groceries. She just said, of course, Summer.
And I laid down and went to sleep, and I got up and I was sitting in my doorway, and we come out, and
We come out. So I wonder if this is made up, right? I went to sleep, I believe that. All of a sudden when she's talking about we, she switches into present tense. Because maybe this part of the story is made up now. This whole gardening bit might be fabricated.
Candace asked me what I was doing. I said, well, we got to transplant these little cactuses into bigger pots. And we did that, and then Summer come in and had a piece of peppermint.
Look, we did that. Summer come in and had a piece of peppermint. Why not Summer came in? Notice she lapses into present tense now. Earlier she missed out words when she was talking about what Summer was doing. Now she switched into present tense when she talked about Summer coming in. So this might seem like a big leap to you, but this is actually a red flag. This woman has spoken the English language for longer than I have been alive. Grammar, particularly tense, present, past tense, is intuitive. You don't need to think about it. It's something we do naturally. Once we know how to speak, we know how to speak in the correct tense. And she's proven she knows how to do that. But whenever she talks about Summer, the tense is off. At least what I've seen here. And there is a reason for that. And that's another line of inquiry now in my mind. So the lines of inquiry so far are, what prescription did she pick up? Was it an opiate or a sedative? And now, was Summer actually there? Or was she not there? So is this story scripted? Is there any evidence that this story is true? Can we actually go see the cacti in the bigger pots? And can we also find the smaller pots that they were supposedly in before? And I also want to know, I'd like to ask the boys, did you help Grandma with the groceries that day? And if you didn't help her with the groceries, why would she make that up? And if you did, was Summer there? Because Grandma left off the few words. She should have said, of course, Summer. She didn't say Summer also helped with the groceries. So I want to know, where was Summer then?
Which is her favorite. And then she went in. She said, Mama, I want to go play with the boys. Candy walked her back to the house.
All right, so now we're back into past tense again.
And she asked the boys to keep an eye on her, and that's the last time I seen her.
And that's the last time I seen her. So we had, whenever the tense was off, it was related to Summer, which is strange. So I hope I'm not belaboring the point. And I also hope you don't think this is some huge leap. This is Statement Analysis 101. We saw it with Amber Heard. We saw it with Meghan Markle. We've seen it a bunch of times on the channel now. When people switch back and forth between past and present tense, we need to be on alert about it. Catching liars is hard. You can't forgive every little discrepancy. That's what they want you to do. For example, she wanted you to infer, when she said, of course, Summer, she wanted you to picture Summer there helping with the groceries. But she didn't say that. You would have to put words into her mouth to get to that conclusion. She just said, of course, Summer. So lying is hard, but catching them is also hard. So you have to look at the little changes in vocabulary, in grammar, missing words, detailed words swapped with vague ones. You have to look for the little signs that someone's trying to get away with the lie. They're trying to make the lie easier to tell by softening it in their head, by making it not technically a lie, or minimizing the lie. And this is all stuff that's taught on my channel here for free, and it's also distilled into the deception deck. And then one more shameless plug. If you want to support the channel, you can pick up your own Stay True cap, which is my vintage cap at deceptiondeck.com. And it ships internationally for fairly cheap. So I know lots of my subscribers are from all over the world. And this one, because of the logistics of how it's printed, should ship fairly cheap.
Tell me when you first realized that Summer was missing, what was going through your mind, and what was it like here?
To be blunt, it was hell. I mean, and I apologize, I'm blunt. As everybody knows, I have a missing daughter. She's been gone for 12 years. And all I...
This is another contextual detail that we just can't ignore. One of Grandis's other daughters is missing, went missing years ago. How does that affect the Summer Wells case? It could just tell us about their environment, that they live in a dangerous area, right? They just live in a dangerous segment of society where people just go missing and horrific things just happen. It could also suggest to us that maybe there is abuse, because so far the only people we've seen go missing are girls. So maybe there is just a desensitization towards abuse, and the women who get fed up with it just run away. So maybe Summer ran away. Or they're desensitized to selling off or pimping out girls in the family. Or maybe it's just a huge coincidence. But it's something we also have to take note of contextually, so outside of the language. One of her daughters is missing, and now her granddaughter is also missing.
All I could say is, oh God, not again. And I couldn't do nothing but cry. And we yelled for her, and we yelled for her, and yelled for her. And we could not find her. Candy was in.
All right, so as far as the theme of this video, developing leads, I would like to know, did anyone actually hear them yelling? If people heard them yelling, well, that's a little chip in the direction that maybe they're telling the truth. Maybe Summer did wander off, and they were actually looking for her. Of course, they could still be hoaxing and doing some yelling to make it look like they think she disappeared. But if nobody around them heard any yelling, it could just be that no one was around and they were actually yelling, or no one actually heard it. But it would be a chip in the direction that this is a hoax. If nobody, no neighbor, nobody in the area reported them actually screaming and looking for Summer. So it's another line of inquiry that those nitty-gritty true crime YouTubers, if they have an answer or want to look into it, I'd be very curious to know the response, to know the answer.
In hysterics. And we never did find her. She called 911, and she called Donnie, and we sent the boys down over the hill, and I stood in front of over by the edge there and watched them.
Okay. What's wrong with that? We've seen this in 3 series now. I've done a series on the Ramseys, I've done a series on the McCanns, and now the Wells. And this plot hole, because I think they're all hoaxers. I think the McCanns are hoaxers. I think the Ramseys are hoaxers. I think the Wells are hoaxers. Hoaxers, hoaxing a crime, right? Presenting evidence of something that didn't actually happen is hard. And even movies can't do it with their unlimited budgets and limited time professional screenwriters. There's still plot holes, even in multi-million-dollar blockbusters. Because creating, fabricating an airtight story is virtually impossible. Because you can't consider every little factor, right? It's actually very complicated. Fabricating a lie is a lot harder than lying by omission, where you just leave stuff out, which is why lying by omission is by far the most popular way to lie. So what is wrong with this part of the story? Remember, allegedly, Summer is vanished. So Summer's gone. They think she could have been kidnapped. They've also said in earlier interviews that there were bears and snakes on the property and coyotes. So there could be a kidnapper on the property. There could be a bear. There could be a coyote. There could be venomous snakes. Any number of things that cause Summer to go missing. So ask yourself, what would you do in that situation? And now see if you can notice the plot hole in their story. The thing that they do, that if this were in a movie, everybody would be commenting on X and IMDb that this was a plot hole.
We sent the boys down over the hill, and I stood in front of over by the edge there and watched them.
They sent the boys to go look for her. If you actually thought there was a kidnapper in the area, or a ring of dangerous people abducting children, would you send the boys out into the woods where you think Summer was abducted? I don't think so. To me, that looks like a plot hole in a hoax. Because it's hard to consider what someone actually in that situation would do. So is it possible that they're not hoaxing and they sent the boys into the woods? Yes. But is it likely? No. I think you'd have to be very, very stupid to do that. So, and just relating to the McCanns and Ramseys, the McCanns, they alleged that someone broke into a hotel room they were staying in at a resort and stole their daughter Madeline and left their other kids there. And what did they do? They ran back out of the room to go look for the kidnapper, leaving their other kids alone in the room where they alleged that their daughter was kidnapped from. So they're alleging that there's a kidnapper or a ring of kidnappers on the loose, and yet they leave their other kids alone in the bedroom. That is a plot hole. Is it possible they could be that stupid? Yes. Is it likely? No. It indicates they actually know there is no kidnapper, and they're going to run around pretending to look for Madeline because they want to hide what actually happened to her. But because lying is so difficult, they're forgetting, hey, if we actually thought there was a kidnapper in the area, wouldn't we be taking our twins with us because we're worried that a kidnapper might take them too? And the Ramseys, same thing. They allege that someone kidnapped their daughter. They allege someone kidnapped their daughter, John Bonet. The kidnapper says he's watching them, monitoring them. He might still be in the house. And what do? They go looking for John Bonet and they send their son up to his bedroom alone, where a kidnapper might be ready to kidnap him too. So when I point out similarities between the McCanns, the Ramseys, the Wells, I think that it can be explained by the fact that all three of them are hoaxing. That's my opinion. I think all three are hoaxing. All three, something tragic happened to their daughters. They know what happened, and they're trying to sell a different version of events with fake evidence, fake testimony.
And was praying to God every minute that nobody would take them.
Okay, so at least she addresses the plot hole, right? I was praying no one would take them too. So if you were aware that there's a possibility they'd be kidnapped, would you really send your other children out now to go look for the kid who's allegedly been kidnapped?
And there was no sign of her.
Do you believe that someone took Summer, or do you believe that she wandered off? What do you believe happened?
I believe somebody took her. I know people say,
So this is actually a better answer than we've seen from other people. So when she says, I believe somebody took her, at least she's not being conclusive. So that's actually a decent response. Whereas real hoaxers like the McCanns, in my opinion, who are real hoaxers, say, we know she was kidnapped, when there's no evidence of a kidnapping. So when someone's that conclusive, you can be pretty sure that they're hoaxing, that they're making it up because they're pushing their narrative so hard. Or the Ramseys. We know John Bonet was kidnapped. And they even had a little 3-page ransom note, which I've analyzed in my my Ramsey series, which is just, in my opinion, hoaxing 101. That's actually probably one of my most underrated videos, how to analyze a ransom note or how to analyze a kidnapping, something like that.
it doesn't happen, but it does happen. It happens in small towns. It happens in big towns. It happens in the country. And I believe somebody took her.
All right, so lots of lines of inquiry just from that very brief interview. Now let's look at some of the top comments from my last Summer Wells video. And this is usually my favorite part. All right, so this top comment from my last video, How to Spot a Contradiction, is from channel member Alicia B. You are pumping out the Wells videos. Thank you. Little Summer deserves renewed attention. It feels like her situation has fallen off the radar. Personally, I think that there actually is a lot of attention in this case. If you remember, I only covered Summer Wells because she ranked so high on 2 of the community polls I did. So the only reason I added her to my YouTube community poll was because of all the requests. And these videos, I've seen an outpouring of people commenting, sharing the videos, reacting to the videos, showing up to the live stream. So I think there is still a lot of interest in Summer Wells, and hopefully my videos can help us get to the bottom of it. I think that the parents are such bad liars that there's so much leakage and projection in their interviews that if we analyze enough interviews, we could potentially get to the truth. So I don't think people have given up on Summer. And I think this case, as far as I've seen from my analytics on YouTube and from the response from the Summer's Army people who show up to my live streams and have subscribed, that there is still plenty of interest in Summer. All right, next up is from Villanelle XOX. She says, I don't want to come off as overdramatic, but you have literally saved me from a toxic relationship that could have ruined my life. Everything you mention in your videos are phrases that my ex used, and the way I would defend him just confirms the manipulation tactics he used. You've also made me more self-aware of an intentional manipulation I've used on other people, and as confronting as it is, it's helped me so much to leave a terrible situation alongside self-reflecting on my behavior towards others. Thank you, DD, for your content. Keep it up. So I think I replied to her, actually, or at least I hearted this. So comments like this mean a lot to me because they're the reason I started my YouTube channel in the first place. And they're actually the reason I came back to YouTube when I decided, I thought I was going to leave it forever. But I had so many emails and people still commenting on my videos asking me to come back. And I'm glad I came back. I think this new format is much more rewarding because I can actually just speak frankly. And there's a reason I don't just do true crime, for example. There's a reason I spent so much time on sadists like Ruby Frankie and Jada Pinkett Smith. Because I think that these skills, and you can learn them the hard way, like Vanille did, right? So she recognized these things in her own life. And you can also learn them by spotting them before they happen to you. And that's what I hope to do with my channel, is at least expose people to real sick forms of manipulation and lies so that they can avoid them in their own life. All right, so the third most popular comment is from Virgo Vibe 63. This is so refreshing to hear a creator who is here to analyze and isn't a tragedy pimp. So I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. Sometimes I get people commenting, trying to shut me up. Like, how does it feel to benefit off the grief of others? Or, don't you feel ashamed of yourself talking about these people? No, not at all. Right? I don't feel shame. I don't think anything I do is shameful. No one can shame me or buy me or any of those things to shut me up. I just don't care. Whenever I analyze a case, the only victim in my mind is the kid. I think there's a reason you guys continuously vote for me to analyze missing little girls, because I think lots of other commentators feel like they owe some sympathy to the parents. Well, if I come to the conclusion that the parents are covering it up or they're involved, I have zero sympathy for them. I don't consider them victims. There's only one victim in the Summer Wells case, and that's Summer. Don't get confused. So yeah, I'm not here to analyze every tragedy that happens in the world. Really, the point of my channel is to teach you how to spot liars and manipulation. And if the way you guys want to get those lessons and the best way for me to download them into your heads is by analyzing true crime, then that's what I want to do. I want my videos to actually be watched, and I want to give you real world examples of the lessons. And I just hope I can communicate everything in a way that you find it entertaining and valuable. And so far, I think the reaction has been great. So it's very rewarding to me when I see people commenting stuff I've said in previous videos and applying lessons from the Ramseys to the Wells or to the McCanns to the Ramseys. It just means that I'm getting my message across. So yes, I'm not a tragedy pimp. I'm glad no one here, at least a member like Virgo, thinks I am. All right, so next up, Barb Nauman. She says, yes, Don has an extensive criminal past in jail and prison. He used, quote unquote, other females in the family when he was growing up. They've been attempting to seek justice. There are many recordings of Don Wells drunk and calling into YouTube shows. Many thanks, DD, for this valuable work you're doing for a small child who never had a chance in this earthly life. Yeah, I've seen lots of people commenting about all the interviews that Don does. And I actually reached out to Ziggy. Hopefully she sends me some clips. I reached out to her on X because in that first Summer Wells video I did, which was just a compilation of weird things that Don Wells said in interviews, Ziggy said in a live that everyone was telling me to go watch, and I checked it out. She said that when she was reacting to my first Summer Wells video, that some of those quotes came from interviews that she did with him. So I'd be curious to see clips of some of the earliest interviews that people did with Don, where he talks about his views of minors, views of women, because I think they're very revealing. There's a reason that my first video in the series was, can people project their guilt? Because I feel like lots of what Don says is him projecting his distorted views of the world and of sexuality and of a father's duty to his children onto the world, onto other people. Which is why when he says things that seem totally bizarre and outlandish, he doesn't censor himself, because to him they're not particularly weird. That's just how the world works. All right, next up we have a comment from Dale Newton. And Dale says, to solidify DD's point about innocent parents refusing to believe the possibility their child is unalive, in 1975, right, all the way back in 1975, his cousin went missing on a camping trip. And then 45 years later, after his cousin's disappearance, his aunt sternly corrected another family member when they spoke about Kurt in the past tense. So Kurt's the cousin. And then he says, I remember it well. It was such an awkward moment. And that's correct. That is why it's such a red flag. So it is possible, right, for the parent of a missing child to accept that their child is dead or lose hope. But it's very rare. So empirically, right, in studies across many parents of dead, missing children, or not that missing children, right, so where they don't know what happened to the child. it's very uncommon for the parent to actually accept the kid's death at any point, but especially early on in the investigation where there's no evidence that the kid is dead. So here was Summer Wells. It's not like there was a pool of blood in the basement and a ransom note saying they're going to kill Summer. Summer just vanished. For all they know, she could have been out in the woods. So the fact that even in those early interviews, the one we analyzed where it was only like 2 weeks after she went missing, they're talking about her in the past tense and talking about losing hope about her. Those are big red flags. More likely than not, right? You're going to be right most of the time if a parent talks about their kid in past tense, if you assume that the parent knows the kid is dead. So I'm sorry for the tragedy in Dale Newton's family, right? That's a very sad thing. But it also shows a mother's love. And that's a common theme on the channel, is mother's love on my channel. Even I find it very hard, as you guys know, right? If you've seen my Ramseys, McCanns, I find it very hard to picture a mother killing their kid, even though I know it's possible, right? Like I analyzed Casey Anthony. I think that she killed her daughter. Right, I'm familiar with the Susan Smith case because it's one of the most famous cases in statement analysis, where she said she was carjacked with her kids in the back seat, and in reality, she locked the kids in the car, went out and let it go down a ramp into the water, drowning her kids. And when she spoke in interviews, she spoke about them in the past tense, even though allegedly she thought they were missing. All right, so now we're jumping around a little bit, and I just want to address this. So I'm going to read this comment from Kathy Plouffe. And she says, just an FYI, I am pretty sure only Catholics have confessionals. I understand what your intention was to gather intel. Thank you so much for doing this work to reveal liars. Like you said, you really have to go on the dark side to understand this level of evil. I think a lot of us think like we have been dragged through a cesspool and back. You have brought truth and hope and all the lies. So in my previous Wells video, I noticed that the parents themselves brought up the church. And as you guys know, I don't, and as I've said in this video, I don't get into the nitty gritty of the cases. So I didn't know if they were Catholic or First Day Adventist or whatever, if they're Protestant. So I was just saying that a line of inquiry could be to go to the church and see if they confess to someone, because that would explain why they were ingratiating themselves with the church, hoping that whoever they told the truth to or admitted some, of their dark past to won't come forward and break the privilege between priest and congregant and confessor. And one of the benefits of doing my analysis publicly is I get instant feedback from all of you, which is why I think this video is so cool, because I've put out all the lines of inquiry that I would look into if I had the time. But there are channels devoted to just that thing, right? So they don't specialize in statement analysis. They don't specialize in, spotting lies or manipulation. What they do is they specialize in deep diving into the nitty gritty of cases. And hopefully some of those channels will investigate some of those lines of inquiry. So here I threw out the religion thing because I thought it would be interesting to look into that line of inquiry. And within a day, many of you guys pointed out they are not Catholic, so there is no confessional, which means they may not have confessed to anyone officially, like a Catholic going into the little confessional booth and confessing their sins to a priest. So that is out. However, there may be someone at the church that they confided in informally, right? One reason many people go to church is to seek guidance and, seek redemption with the Lord. So maybe there was someone there that they confided in, even if it wasn't a formal Roman Catholic confession. So I just want to address that. I think everyone who pointed out that point to me, I thank you for that. I love the feedback, and I like the way that Kathy acknowledge she understood where I was going with it and she's informing me. Not like some comments where I see like, dude, you need to learn all about this case before you comment on it. Like, well, that's not the point of my channel. The point of my channel is not to solve a true crime. The point of my channel is to teach you how to spot liars and manipulators. If I incidentally help solve a crime, then that's great. But it's not the point of my channel. I don't do deep dives into true crime. All right, let's wrap up with this good comment from channel member DC Primetime. And DC says, thank you for being so disciplined and responsible with your analysis. When someone says something about another creator or sub in your chat, I like to say the truth is for everyone. And I've seen lots of people ever since I started covering Summer Wells reach out to me telling me, don't talk to this person, don't talk to that person. As long as your focus is finding the truth, that's all that matters to me. To put you on the camp of the good guys. So I always leave open the option to myself to talk to anybody for any reason. So telling me not to talk to this person or that person, you guys just have to have faith in me that I can spot a manipulator when I see one. Okay, so just take it for granted that I can spot a manipulator when I see one. So far, I think as long as someone's looking for the truth in this case, they're good with me. And like I've said in the past few Summer Wells videos, if you want to react to one of my videos and add context, just like everyone's doing here in the comments where they're adding context to what I say, feel free to do that. It will spread the word about your channel, it will spread the word about my channel. And for example, when Pat Brown did a video reacting to one of my videos, it's one of her most watched videos. So it helps both channels, and it just can add some context about the case facts, which I might not be privy to just because I don't have the time or really the inclination to do a deep dive into all the facts. And that's important. Some people have told me to look at certain pictures of videos of Summer, and I want to be in this headspace as little as necessary. I don't want to see any heartbreaking videos of Summer or any heartbreaking pictures of her. It's not an interest of mine to be upset like that. So I want to analyze the statements and put out the theories, the lines of inquiry, my opinion, and people can take it from there. So feel free, if you are a true crime creator, a small channel, big channel, you can react to my videos. And as long as you're looking for the truth, we're on the same team. Until next time, stay true.